Alright, so before I begin the actual adding the shadow to the lower areas of the stone right here, I'm going to do one final thing to these side stones for now and just paint those away. Um, I'd prefer not to have them there. Um, to me it doesn't make sense to have stones that far out over a destroyed wall. So using Control plus I zoomed in, and with the spacebar held down I get the hand tool. So now, making sure that I'm in the mask for this layer set, I will brush and brush with the black color, because if I brush with white, I see that I bring all those stones back. And Control Z to undo. So paint with black, paint these out to the lines that are already there. Bracket left and bracket right, increase and decrease my brush size. Spacebar, move over to the right. Oh, I don't have the mask for the side stone right layer set selected, so I'll go ahead and select that now. Bracket right to increase my brush size. Again, if this part is redundant for you, please feel free to skip ahead. Control 0. Alright, I like that much better. So what there is to take care of now is create the shadows for the underside of this stone, right in through here and right down in here. That's going to add a lot of depth to our stone wall, our stone facade, and in that depth it'll help create the realism that we're going for here. So to do that, I'll be using another layer style. First thing I need to do is select the stone facade layer. And the layer style I will be using is the inner shadow. I don't want to use drop shadow because I don't want this layer to render a shadow onto other layers. So I just want this layer to render a shadow onto itself. So for this I will be using inner shadow. Oh, and before I go ahead and do that, one thing that I want to bring your attention to is how to disable or able a layer mask. So for the stone facade layer, if I hold down Shift and select the layer mask, see how I get that red X right there? Basically that says it's been disabled, and if I bring in the history, it says disable layer mask right here. Okay, and if I Shift select that again, it now says enable layer mask, and what you probably noticed is that when I disable the layer mask, everything that was once hidden by that layer mask now comes back. Again, proving the point that this was never deleted and it's only been hidden. Go ahead and Shift select that, and now we'll continue. So inner shadow. Now as I'm doing this, we're going to notice an error, not an error, but something for us to clean up. So again, I'm going to move my layer style window down here to the bottom, and I will, if you're following along at home, I will tell you each of the settings that I'm changing. So right now, if I increase my size and my choke, well, before I do that, notice how right now I have the angle wrong for this layer style. It almost looks like the boards are sticking out over the stone facade. And if that's what you're going for, then that's perfect. Go ahead and increase the size of that and increase the choke. Now you may have noticed something. If you're paying very close attention, you may have noticed a little darkening right here. And when you're working with layer styles or effects and you start using them on duplicated layers, you may start to notice I'm going to increase the choke now. So right here, I'm going to increase that value. Right now it's set at 8. If I increase this, you start to see lines appear. So what that is, in the very beginning, when I took that original image and duplicated it over 1, 2, 3, and 4, Um, what happens is right down through here, right along that line, there is the opacity of that layer is not 100%. It's probably like 98 or 99%, which is why that shadow is running very faint when compared to this shadow right here, which is all in the same layer, by the way. So what I need to clean up now, and I purposely left this in because you may or may not run into this problem. I just wanted to show you guys how to fix this. What I need to do now is actually fix the opacity of this layer. To give a further demonstration of this, oh, hold on here. To give a further demonstration of this, I've got two layers. I've got this white layer right here and a white layer below it. And when I turn on this inner shadow for the top layer, we can see where that is. If I brush, if I brush out here, then it adds to that. When I start erasing from this, then that shadow area updates as I paint and remove the paint. And what it looks like right now is that actually the layer above is, physically it's receded into it. But this is a very wonderful example of how layer styles actually update with your brush. And this is what's happening right now. So the easiest way to fix this isn't to, it's not really to paint over it. I could, at this point, by the way, one of the things I could do is I could take the clone tool or the rubber stamp tool and start painting over this. But when I'm doing that, I will have to be very, very precise, or now let me just go ahead and demonstrate that. So let's turn on inner shadow, turn this up. All right. So I've got my stamp out. Hold down Alt. I don't think you guys can see that crosshair right now. There it is down there. I'll select this area and then paint over here. So that's one way to do it, except if you're taking a real close look, I'm actually changing, like I wasn't precise enough. So I'm actually creating a little pattern in the stone. Let me go ahead and zoom in on that. Right in through here, I've actually created a repeating pattern. So I'm not going to use the stamp tool for that. I'll undo that. If I undo it again, you can see the difference. See how this area got raised up, how it now gets brought back down. I find that the easiest way to solve this is to duplicate this layer and paste it back onto itself. Because if the layer has 50% or greater opacity, then all it will take is two duplications to equal 100% opaque. Okay, so I will dupe this layer by dragging it down to this right here. Dupe that. I'm going to turn off my layer effects and discard. I will discard that because if I take two layers and duplicate them together and they have a layer mask on them, it will remove the layer mask. So I'll take this and right here and Control E. So Control E merges linked layers, and I will Control select this layer mask and apply it to this layer up here. I will copy, right mouse click, copy this layer style, and right mouse click, paste this layer style. I'll undo that again so you can read the paste layer style. I'll get rid of this old stone facade set now. And now if I turn on, oops. Alright, so I didn't make enough copies, so we'll just try this again. Okay, make a copy of that. Discard the mask. Copy, copy, copy. We'll do more than 2 this time. We'll make very sure that this doesn't blow up in my face while I'm recording again. Okay, we'll delete all these layer sets, or these layer masks, layer styles. Alright, we'll take each one of these, Control E to merge linked, Control select that layer mask, set it to that, paste the layer style in this top layer. There we go, success. So I just didn't duplicate the layer enough to remove all the transparency. So what we have now, what we had before. And for those of you wondering what this was, this is the layer that we created, actually the 2 layers that we created when we did the original, the first time we did the drop shadow on the stone facade, and then we created those layers into something new. Alright, so I'll turn on the new stone facade layer with the new inner shadow. I will delete the old stone facade layer. And now we'll go in and edit the attributes for the inner shadow. Okay, so looking at this, the first thing that's wrong again is it's casting shadow along the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to change is the angle. I'm going to turn off use global light and set this to -90. So now we can see that the shadow is up here. Now it's a very soft rounded shadow right now, which we won't be keeping. So in order to get a real crisp shadow, increase the choke, and we can see now that we've got this really big black line. It's not going to do us a whole lot of good. And we also see that showing up along the bottom. So our distance is too small, right now set at 5, and our size is huge. So if we decrease the size, increase the distance a little bit, and decrease the opacity, we can see now that we're actually getting a nice hard line right along that shadow. And as we increase the choke and decrease the size, the more crisp that shadow becomes. I'll change the color here real quick. Go to a dark blue. Four, 2, and 47 are my RGB. And alright, I'll click OK. So now that we've added the shadows right there along the bottom of the stone facade, now what's obviously missing from the side stone right here, like as soon as we added that level of realism right there, it broke something else. We now see, oh, that needs to be fixed. So now we'll take care of that. Now we've got kind of a dilemma going on, because right now the side stones are actually broken up into 2 layer sets of 3 layers each, right? So there's the stone right, which is 3 layers, and the stone left, which is also 3 layers. I can't, if you'll notice, whenever I have a layer set selected, right now in Photoshop CS, I cannot add a layer style to that. So how am I going to solve this? I could, if I wanted to, flatten each of the layer sets and then apply, if I wanted, I could apply the layer effect to those flattened layer sets. I don't want to do that just yet. So what I can do is make use of the difference between opacity and fill. For anyone that's used Photoshop, CS, you may wonder, what's the difference between opacity and fill? Well, this now is the difference. I'll show that. Alright, so the first thing I need to do is actually select, I need to create a layer that has where the side stones are right now. I need to create a layer that has all that in there. So the easiest place to get that is from the layer mask of the two layer sets. So Control select side stone left layer mask and Control Shift select side stone right layer mask. So that way I've now got these dancing ants that show me where the stones are. And if you take a real close look, you can see little dancing ants right there, and one little dancing ant right there, and I'm not going to worry about that. It's very minimal, and it's just something you may want to keep track of while you're working. Okay, so Control Shift then, make a new layer. We'll call this side stone shadow, and I'll go ahead and fill, Control Backspace to fill with the background color. So right now you notice black is the background color. And Control Shift, or just Control Backspace. You can see that it's filled this area, the selected area, only in the side stone shadow. So whatever was selected got filled in. So Control D to deselect. And I will now copy, come back here to Stone Facade. Oh, let me scoot this out. Excuse me. Copy Layer Style. Scroll up here and paste Layer Style. Well, okay, so that didn't do much good, did it? Let's take the opacity and turn this all the way down. We're back where we were before. Now this is the difference between opacity and fill. See, when I turn down the fill, it turns off, like it starts turning up the transparency of everything inside this layer, but it enables the actual layer effects or the layer styles. So I can now edit my layer styles, my layer effects, and not have anything show up here. I can use only what's present here as kind of as where to render and where to not render, if you will. So I will double click on Inner Shadow and bringing up the options, which I keep down here hidden so you can watch this up here. The first thing I'm noticing is that, here I'll show you guys this real quick. The shadow is actually coming in on the sides, which doesn't look good here. So what I'll do is I will undo that move. Like this. Oh, that was a distance that I did. And I will change a few things there. There we go. I'll turn down the size. You can see that when I do that, all the sides aren't being turned that shadow color anymore. I'll turn up the distance because right now the shadow on the side stones is right there. So if I turn up the distance, you can slowly see that line inch up towards the line of the stone facade. It looks really good right here and right over here. So if I decrease that a little bit, or if I bring that up, alright. We'll bring it down just a little. Alright, there we go. Perfect. Alright, so now we'll start using layer effects to add highlights. So the first highlight to add, I'll actually be adding it on the stone facade, this stone wall here. So I'll come down here and select stone facade again and go to my my little layer effect drop down right here. And now I need to figure out what, which one of these layer effects is best to use. So if I go with inner glow, and the reason I'd go with an inner instead of an outer is that the inner is actually applied to itself. If I go with outer, it will apply it to everything outside of the layer. Unfortunately, this is a little bit misleading because the way it renders a glow is to actually render, what you may start to notice, I'll go ahead and increase this size for you. What you may start to notice is that it creates this glow all around the the entirety of the layer. So it's not just the top and it's not just the bottom. You'll notice that there is no degree, like you have up here with inner shadow. You get this angle. You don't have that with inner glow. So how do you get around that? Well, the easiest way to get around that is to use another inner shadow. Now, of course, current problem we have is this we already have an inner shadow on it, and this one we're actually using to make shadows. So, again, I will just right mouse click on the inner shadow, and I'll create this layer. Alright, and what you see, I'll get into this later, but what you see right now is that it's created this new layer right here. And this new layer it's created is like stone, facade, copy, fours, inner shadow. Move that out so you can see that. But another thing you'll notice is that you've got this little arrow right there. And what that means is that everything in this layer is only rendering, like it's only drawing on wherever the layer below it is present. And how do you set that up? You set that up by holding down, if I bring my mouse right here between these two layers and hold down the Alt key, hold it down, let it go, hold it down, let it go, hold it down, and select that right there, I've now turned off what's called a clipping layer. So this is where that layer is. If I Alt mouse click again between these two layers, I've now created this top layer as a clipping layer for the bottom layer. Now before I go on, I'll go ahead and demonstrate this real quick. So I'll create a new image. And using these 512 by 512 settings with the power of 2, that's just old habit. Alright, so clipping layers require two layers to be present. Go ahead and set a red. So we get this nice red going on right here. It's beautiful. I love it so much. Alright, now we need a new layer. Control-Shift-N, make new layer. Because it's Christmas time, I'll go ahead and set this as green. Alright, now right now these two layers have no distinct relationship to each other. All we know is that layer 2 is on top of layer 1, and layer 2 is out here to the side, and layer 1 is below it to the left. When I hold down, oh, and just to give you guys an idea, this is where if I control select layer 1, this is where layer 1 is. Okay, so just kind of keep that shape in mind real quick. Now if I hold down Alt between these two layers, what I get is layer 2 is only present wherever layer 1 is present. So if I control select layer 2, we see that this is everywhere that layer 2 is, but it is only rendering wherever, control select layer 1, it is only rendering wherever layer 1 is. Now you can do this with any type of layer. It's not just two layers with blobby colors in them. These also work for adjustment layers as well. So if I turn off this clipping layer relationship, turns that on. If I move layer 2 to the bottom and turn on the clipping layer relationship, now I see that layer 1 is only rendering where layer 2 is present. And again, it's not erasing anything. It's just using the layer below as kind of a boundary and a definition of where to render itself. Go ahead and close that. So back to this. So that's how this relationship right here is working. We took that inner shadow from before and we created it as its own layer. And because it is affecting only the stone facade, it works best to have it be on top. It works best for it to be a clipping layer of the actual stone facade. Because that way it's only rendering where the stone facade is and not outside of it. Alright, so what we need to do now for this is make yet another inner shadow. But why would I make an inner shadow for a highlight? So the word shadow is a little misleading. Oh, excuse me. The word shadow is a little misleading. What it really means, this inner shadow, what they're really trying to say is a directional drop, or a directional render of a color or gradient on the current layer instead of outside the current layer. Directional, and so it's coming from one direction and not around the entire layer. So now that I open this up, I see that I can set my own blending mode and set my own color. So once I can control those two things, a shadow can quickly become a highlight. So as soon as I change the color, we see that that's already changed. And I'll come down here. Oh, turn this up for you guys real quick. Try and move it out to this side so we can also see what's going on. Come down here to overlay. And already it's brightened that area up. So I turn up the distance, turn up the choke, because one of the things we learned from last time is that a large choke and a small size gets you that nice crisp edge. So looking at this real quick, I think it's a little bit too strong. So I can turn down the opacity. Maybe if I want, one of the things that's actually too strong looking at this now is that there's too much color in there. So if I go with a light gray, there we go. Go with a light gray, maybe turn up the distance a little bit. Probably get a distance that matches the shadow. Play around with these values a little bit. So one thing we're going to do later is, right now these edges, they're very perfect. And I prefer, when I'm creating my final texture, I prefer to stay away from perfect edges, perfect lines. I like to have small aberrations throughout the entire thing. Eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this, each one of these layer sets, or each one of these layer styles, create them as individual layers, and kind of run in and brush certain things out or paint certain things in. Like what you notice is right in here, I probably would paint that little section out or paint this down further. But that will be in a later chapter. Alright, maybe I'll increase the distance a little bit more. Although, there we go. I'll actually keep that right there. So I was looking at it, and when I saw that I had like a really large distance, like it looked like everything was kind of cut into it. It looked a little bit out of perspective. It looked like I was looking down at the top of this lip here, but also looking up at the bottom of this lip there, and kind of three-dimensionally that didn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'll just keep this real narrow here, like I've got like the really bright highlight. And yeah, I'll keep that.